Good morning and welcome to City Hall. We'll get started with our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. This is a big week for Tom Jones and the City Rescue Mission, so Tom's going to lead us in the invocation. Then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance from Councilman Pat Ryan, and then we'll have Tom tell us about some of the activities taking place at the City Rescue Mission this week. So would everybody please stand?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this incredible season of Thanksgiving, God, that you're allowing us not only in this nation but in our city to experience, Lord. And we just driving around this city, God, we realize how awesome you are and the impact, God, that is taking place on this community. Lord, we pray for this city council today, God, that you would just continue to guide their thoughts, their vision, Lord, for what you desire for this community. Lord, you have blessed and anointed this community in a great way, Lord, and we just give you the praise and the glory for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, today the City Rescue Mission, in conjunction with all of its partners, we're passing out about a little over 2,000 food boxes today to the near homeless. We work directly with the homeless, but there are many in our community that are at a point of they either pay their rent or they eat. And many times just needing a little extra help. But Thanksgiving's a special time, certainly, because of the fact that everyone is celebrating a time of big meal and family time together. So we've got about 2,000 boxes we're passing out. The Thunder's coming today to help do that, and we're pretty excited about that. They're going to be playing basketball with about 75 children that live at the mission, and they're pretty excited about that. We also, I wanted to say, on Thanksgiving Day, City Rescue several years ago began a program where families can adopt a table on Thanksgiving Day for the Thanksgiving meal. And this year, we've had to cut it off at 100 tables being sponsored. So we have 100 families from this community that have chosen to come to City Rescue. They bring all their decorations for their table, and then they also bring their families' favorite dessert. I mean, each table will have a different dessert, whichever their traditional family dessert is. And that family will sit at the table, and then we'll fill the extra seats with the homeless so that the homeless actually sit and have Thanksgiving dinner with a family from our community. And I just wanted to mention to you and the council, sometimes we don't realize how compassionate this community is, but we all need to be extremely proud of the people in this community because they look toward those that are underprivileged and less fortunate and make sure that they don't miss a thing. And I'm just extremely proud of Oklahoma City.
Is there anything you need in the next 48, 72 hours?
You know, we've got tons of volunteers coming down. The food boxes are already in place. Things are going well, and there's nothing critical. We have 2,000 boxes of food. We have close to 1,000 turkeys, and then we bought chicken, 10-pound bags of chicken to fill up the difference. So if anybody's got any extra turkeys around, then that means that the families actually get a turkey. The other 1,000 will get a turkey, but other than that, things are going well.
Okay, so if someone does want to drop off a turkey today at the City Rescue Mission, it'll go to a good cause. All right.
Drop it off. It'll be great.
All right, Tom, thank you. Well, we'll call the meeting to order and start with item 3 on the council agenda. It's the appointment of Blake Wade to the Citizen Advisory Board of the Fairgrounds. Cast your votes. That appointment passes unanimously. We're on to item 4. It's the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item A is to receive the Journal of Council Proceedings for November 16th, and item B is to approve the Journal of Council Proceedings for November 9th. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the Journal? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. And item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one this morning under item 8C. 8C is CE 791, and it's requested that this item be deferred until April 5th of 2011.
All right. 8C deferred to April 5th. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Any other requests for uncontested continuances? Well, then let's recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have 2 items. Any comments or questions on the PPA? All right. What's that? Okay. Have a motion on the PPA? All right, cast your votes. And it passes unanimously? Huh? You did?
I was concerned. It was in my stack, and I didn't remember doing anything about it. I move item 3A.
No, we moved it.
We did? Okay.
Yeah, we got it through.
I did miss it then. I'm sorry. I apologize, Your Honor.
No problem. Okay, we'll adjourn the OCPPA and convene the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. We have one item. All right, comments or questions on the EAT? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCEAT, reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any individual consideration on the consent docket? Ready to vote? All right, cast your votes. Consent docket passes unanimously. We'll move on to the concurrence docket, which is fairly lengthy today. Any comments or questions on the concurrence docket?
A lot of school activity that continues.
There are a lot of schools working. Okay. Is there any individual consideration on any of the items listed in the concurrence docket? Well, we have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote? All right, cast your votes. And it passed unanimously. We move on to item 8. These are items that require a separate vote. We'll start with a series of zoning cases. The first is in Ward 6. The address is 1501 South Walker Avenue. It's currently an R1 single-family residential scenic river overlay design district, and it'll become a downtown transitional general scenic river overlay design district. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this item? We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Moved on to item 8A2. It's a zoning case in Ward 7 at 101 Northeast 52nd Street. It's currently R1 single-family residential, and it would become an I2 moderate industrial district. Skip?
I have no problems with this, and I haven't received any opposition from anyone.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes.
And a second? All right. Cast your votes. And item 8A2 passes unanimously. We're on to item 8A3. It's another zoning case in Ward 7 at 7720 North Bryant Avenue. It's I1 light industrial. It would become a simplified plan unit development. Skip?
Ask that we move it.
Second.
All right. Comments or questions on item 8A3? All right. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 8A4 is a zoning case in Ward 2. The address is 3701 North Youngs Boulevard. It's currently C3 community commercial and R1 single-family residential, and it would become a new SPUD.
Mayor, this is Ingrid's Restaurant, long-established restaurant on 36th Street, just west of Pennsylvania. Currently has an ABC 1, and this zoning SPUD will allow an ABC 2 in conjunction with a restaurant. Mr. Groves is here if there's any questions.
Mayor and members of the council, Eric Groves for the applicant. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Are there any questions about item 8A4?
Move it.
All right. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Item 8A5 is a zoning case in Ward 4 at 1317 Southwest 54th Street. It's currently R1 single-family residential and a PUD, and it would become a new simplified PUD. Pete?
Is there anyone here to speak on this? Any objection to it? I move approval.
All right. Cast your votes on item 8A5. It passed unanimously. Item 8B is a request for a 10-year renewal of a permit for a sand quarry in Ward 7. Skip, you got any issues with this one? All right. You're here with the applicant. Is there anyone here wishing to speak against this permit that would be extended otherwise? All right. Sounds like we're good to go. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. On to item 8C. This item has been deferred until April 5th. 8C deferred until April 5th. Item 8D comes to us from the Traffic Commission. Has to do with some parking spaces in Ward 6. Is there anyone here wishing to speak against this item, item 8D? All right, cast your votes. And item 8D passes unanimously. Item 8E is the result of a recent council session in which the council discussed its priorities. We have added one new item since the last time we all got together, and that has to do with public education. Laura, you going to lead us through this process?
Good morning. I am. While Joanna is passing out the copy of the presentation this morning, I will go ahead and start with our presentation. This is a really exciting time for me because I so enjoy having this policy statement come to the City Council from the City Council and set our policy strategy for the next 2 years, 2 to 5 years. You may recall that this process began about 5 years ago with our Leading for Results effort. The strategic issue statements were developed by the City Council for the first time in 2005. And after that time, were updated in 2007 and in October of 2010. In 2007, the statements about growth, demographic shift, and adequacy of tax revenue were dropped and replaced with statements regarding a sustainable financial model and public transportation. In your meetings on October the 5th, there was considerable discussion that was held about the adequacy of the statements. They were modernized, I'll refer to it as modernized by you, to reflect the changes that have happened since the last time the statements were written, and revised to include a statement regarding public education. I don't mean to read to you, but I do think it's important for the policy statements to be read aloud, especially for the people who may not be able to see this presentation, and to hear the words read aloud, because I think that that's an important factor. The significance of these statements allow the City Council to look forward to the challenges facing the city over the next 2 to 5 years. This has become a very important opportunity for us to demonstrate as staff our proactive response to those issues that you have said are most important to you. It provides guidance to the city departments as they develop their strategic business plans and their budgets, and it really helps us make sure that our resource allocations that we recommend to you to be adopted in the budget are aligned with your key priorities and key results that you're looking for to indicate progress on the issues. The first issue is citizen confidence. Again, the City Council seemed to indicate that this was of the highest priority to the Council. Maintaining the confidence of our citizens, preserving a high level of satisfaction with city services is of the highest importance. City leaders must maintain a vision of the city as a whole and continue to use performance-based criteria to be responsive to citizen priorities. Improving communication with our citizens about public safety, other core services, and the status of projects is essential to continue to build citizen trust. The statement was updated to reflect the importance of communication with citizens about projects especially. There was a lot of discussion, as you may recall, in the meeting regarding the construction projects, making sure that the status of those projects was clearly communicated. And as we know with the Project 180 in downtown Oklahoma City, that's become a very high priority for staff also. The next slide shows the results that are associated with that issue statement. Progress on this priority will be measured by the percent of citizens who are satisfied the city is heading in the right direction, the percent of citizens who are satisfied with the city's services, percent of citizens who feel safe, percent of 2007 general obligation bond projects completed, and adopting an implementation plan for MAPS 3. You may recall that previously the results were associated with elections. Those elections have since passed and so have been removed from the list as key results. Are there any questions regarding this issue statement? Okay. The next item is sustainable financial model. The city should move toward a financial model that ensures adequate resources to meet expectations for quality services in a growing city. The need to diversify municipal revenue sources and reduce reliance on the sales tax must continue to be communicated to the state legislature. Controlling city employee wage and benefit costs, maximizing current revenue sources, and exploring revenue options are all important strategies for a sustainable financial model. You may recall that the diversification of municipal revenue sources has been in our plan since 2007, so this is not a new emphasis, but certainly as our economy has had its struggles in the last few years, this has become even more evident to us that a more balanced source of revenues is important to us. And certainly there are efforts to communicate that to the state legislature that are currently underway. Controlling city employee wage and benefit costs has also become an important issue, very obvious to staff during our development of the budget in the past year, and now clearly stated as part of the issue statement on sustainable financial model. The results that are associated with that: adoption of impact fees for new development, limit payroll expenses to 72% or less of the total operating budget, manage the wage and benefit growth to not exceed the growth rate in recurring revenues, adopt Plan OKC by 2013, and the percent of all development that occurs in the inner loop, and the percent of general fund revenue from sales tax. So new to this list include the impact fees for new development, managing the wage and benefit growth to not exceed the growth in recurring revenues, and the adoption of Plan OKC. The next item is infrastructure. This issue statement was also updated to include the quality and timeliness of public construction projects. The issue statement says, infrastructure is a key issue for the city, with street conditions being the highest priority for citizens. Core infrastructure needs, including well-maintained streets and bridges and efficient water and wastewater systems, are basic expectations of citizens. Sidewalks and trails have become a higher priority for citizens. Quality and timeliness of public construction projects are increasingly important factors in improving citizen satisfaction. And also added to this statement from the previous statement is the item concerning sidewalks and trails. So that's a new addition too. Progress on this priority will be measured by increase the average street rating on the Pavement Management Index, the percent of citizens satisfied with the maintenance of city streets, percent of citizens satisfied with water service, percent of citizens satisfied with wastewater service, number of miles of trails and sidewalks constructed. I think this might be a good point for me to mention that, as many of you already know, we did put off the citizen survey this year due to the cost cutting in the budget, but we will have an item to you next month to issue an RFP to select a provider of that survey again for next summer to reinstate that process. This would have been the 5th year that we had used that same company, so we will be going out for proposals to make sure that we're getting the best price and getting a good service provider on that. I can't anticipate whether or not we'll have a change, but certainly as we look at these measures, I want to assure you that we are proceeding with the process of getting that citizen survey reinstated. The next item is public transportation. There is a growing interest in improving public transportation in Oklahoma City. Enhancing the existing system is a key in developing an effective public transportation system. Regional solutions and funding must be developed to expand services and maximize the effectiveness of the system. And here the change really emphasized the regional solutions and funding. That was the discussion that came from the City Council workshop. The results associated with this, progress on this priority will be measured by an increase in public transit ridership, customer satisfaction with public transportation, citizen satisfaction with public transportation, complete the alternative analysis study, and identify implementation strategies and a schedule, and establish a regional funding source for public transportation. Again, establishing the funding source is the added result measure. The next item is economic development. This is one that remains fairly stable from the last time that it was stated by the City Council, although we have added some words to put a little more focus on retail development. The city should continue to utilize performance-based incentives to attract higher-paying jobs and encourage retail development that supports the city's tax base. Attracting and retaining a highly qualified workforce is also critical to growing the local economy. The results associated with this measure: progress on this priority will be measured by an increase in per capita income, the number of new jobs that result from economic development incentives with an annual salary that is 20% greater than the Oklahoma County average, number of jobs created, increase in property values, number of airports served by nonstop flights from Will Rogers World Airport, finalization of a retail development strategy as part of the comprehensive plan. And again, the result that was added focuses on that retail development strategy, continuing to emphasize that quality jobs and increasing the property values are an essential part of the economic development strategy. Next, quality of life. This was an interesting discussion where several years ago, you may recall, the focus of the council was really on attracting more events, more quality things to do in the community. And this time the discussion was really around safety in neighborhoods, quality neighborhoods, and improvement in code enforcement, improvement in the appearance of our city and the safety of our city. Demand continues to grow for recreational, cultural, and entertainment choices that meet the needs of a diverse population. In addition, other factors that make Oklahoma City a desirable place to live, such as attractive community appearance, strong neighborhoods, and quality public education, should be addressed. The results associated with this measure: progress on the priority will be measured by ticket sales at city-operated venues, the percent of citizens who are satisfied with the quality of life in Oklahoma City, percent of citizens who are satisfied with the quality of city parks, recreation programs, and facilities, percent of citizens satisfied with the city's walking and biking trails, and percent of citizens satisfied with the appearance of the city. I'll note here that the percent of citizens satisfied with the city's walking and biking trails is sort of a corresponding measure to the number of trails that we provide, and that item is reflected in the infrastructure measure. So that one of them measures, how we're proceeding on building those, and the other measures how the citizens perceive the value of those in the quality of life measure. Next is the added measure, the added issue statement. Quality public education is vital to the future of our city. Continuing the momentum gained through the Maps for Kids initiative is important. We must encourage accountability in the schools and find new ways to partner with Oklahoma City Public Schools, businesses, and community groups to improve education for our children. This was obviously one of the most challenging in the staff preparation of the summary of the issue statements because it was new. So this is the one that I hope that you all will consider carefully and let me know if there's something that needs to be changed on it. Obviously, all of you have had a chance to review the item, but have not necessarily seen the final issue statement. The results measures associated with this, progress on this priority will be measured by join with the Oklahoma City Public Schools in preparing a transformational plan of improvement that specifies the roles the city and Oklahoma City Public Schools will play, includes specific measurable performance objectives, and identifies additional partnership opportunities. Next is the percent of citizens satisfied with the performance of Oklahoma City Public Schools, and the Oklahoma City Public Schools Board Chairperson will provide a quarterly performance report to the City Council. I want to mention that one of our objectives when we determine who the new provider of the citizen survey will be to make sure that we design a question associated with the schools or a group of questions that substantially differentiate between the respondents and whether or not they are in the Oklahoma City Public Schools or another district, and then measure at least their satisfaction with that and possibly a few other measurements. We will discuss that with them when they're selected so that we can be sure that we're meeting the council's objectives in getting the right question answered there. And then last, but certainly not least, is government efficiency. And I'll confess to having tried to shorten the list of issues by leaving this one out, but I did receive feedback from a significant number of council people that it's very important to them that the issue continue to be clear both to the citizens and to the staff that this government efficiency is very important to the City Council. So it has been put into the mix. There are many opportunities in the metropolitan area to improve the efficiency of government services, sharing resources and consolidating services between jurisdictions, and continuing to find more efficient ways to provide services within our own city will reduce the cost of local government or improve the effectiveness of the services delivered to citizens. And the measures associated with this progress on this priority will be measured by reduction in duplication of governmental services in the metropolitan area, expand essential service delivery to other municipalities with full cost recovery, and the number of employees per 1,000 population. We added the measure, number of employees per 1,000 population. This is a measure that's been reported to you every year for a recent history as part of the ICMA measures that we report in our financial report workshop in January. So we're including that as a key result measure. Obviously, keeping that number down is a reflection of efficiency in the local government. Not always the perfect measure, but one of the measures that you can use to reflect efficiency. This last slide is just a statement of all of the issues, just a brief tag, so to speak, of all the issues. And I'd be happy to respond to any questions that you might have, or if you need additional information. I will say that what you have before you is an aggregation of what I believe that your input was, but certainly there's no, it's not absolutely necessary that this be adopted today. We are interested in getting this out to the department heads soon so that they'll have guidance during their budget preparation, but we do have time to consider it if there are any changes that need to be made.
Your Honor, I have a question. Thank you. Under quality of life, you made a comment in your introductory statements that public safety was a factor or an item of interest.
Yes.
And yet public safety doesn't appear in the quality of life write-up nor in the measures we're going to use to talk about that or measure that particular item. And I wondered if that was an oversight or it just didn't raise to the same level of importance that some of the items.
I thought that was expressed in the strong neighborhoods discussion. And by public safety, I think I mean free of code hazards as much as I do other public safety issues. Public safety is expressed in the citizen confidence measure.
Okay. And the other is sort of a side comment. on the approved public education, the progress on item C. Oklahoma City Public Schools Board Chairperson will provide a quarterly performance report to the City Council. Just as an aside, I had a conversation with Angela, and she was very enthusiastic about an opportunity to present before this council periodically, because one of the problems she feels the Oklahoma City School District has is they've not been given enough recognition for the progress they have made. There have been some areas where there has been significant improvement, and it's been sort of buried in some of the bad publicity, and she would welcome the opportunity to come here periodically and report.
Any other comments or questions for Laura? Yes, Brian?
If we decide to vote on this today, I'll probably vote for it. There is one thing in this that I don't like, and it's the impact fees. I'm not going to support impact fees when they come up. Looking at it, I believe that it's just a tax shift, and it is a tax, and we can call it a fee, whatever we want to, but it is a tax. And what's even worse than it being a tax, it's a tax that's financed over 30 years. So if it's a $1,000 impact fee, it's going to cost that homeowner $3,000. So I will not be supporting that, but I want to make that very clear that even if I do vote for it today, if we do call it to a vote, that I will not support impact fees.
Okay. Yeah, Larry?
Laura, just a question, and I don't know whether we want to go down this road or not, but not every student who's a citizen of Oklahoma City goes to the Oklahoma City Public Schools, and yet the education seems to be targeted just toward the Oklahoma City School District.
I agree, and that reflects the feedback that I received from the City Council. Certainly, if that's not the case, that can be changed.
I don't know whether we want to address that right now or not. I mean, just
Actually, in the city manager's office, when we did our strategic planning, we discussed that a lot, and we actually put a measure in both on the Oklahoma City Public Schools, but we also put one in there of all schools within Oklahoma City, because there are other school districts in Oklahoma City that are at risk, that have performances in some areas as poorly as some of the, or worse than some of the Oklahoma City Public Schools. And so that's clearly an issue that maybe we do need to talk about, because it's not limited only to Oklahoma City Public Schools.
Well, and I guess there's two ways we can do this. We could try to add something today and wordsmith it, or we could, perhaps give some comments back to Laura and have her bring it back to us in a future time. But I think Larry and Pat have both brought up good points. I would like to see, I think, a separate paragraph or section on public safety that specifically illustrates that its importance to us through the budgetary process. And I think, Laura, if I'm reading you correctly, you kind of think it's an underlying theme throughout many of the things that we're talking about, and it probably is. I just would feel better if it was specifically spelled out as the city's priority going forward. Any comments or questions one way or the other on
I certainly agree
perspective?
with your comment. In fact, it's outlined, specific, indicates it is really important to us, not buried, if you will.
I think Laura's right. It's a theme throughout almost every slide. But that's probably from our perspective and perhaps not a citizen perspective. And I'd feel better if it was just weren't so specific and it wasn't the underlying theme. It was clearly the stated priority. Okay. Well, you want to go back and work on that? And,
Absolutely.
And add those on, and we can come back and look at it. We don't need to go through the whole presentation again, but if you can come back on just on those two areas. One that reflects the level of education in all 24 districts is important to the council, and specifically K through 12 in the I-89 district is an added concern. Anything else we want Laura to review? Okay. Laura, thanks very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Should we defer the receiving this?
I think we're right. We can just defer that. We'll bring it back. Just defer it indefinitely. We'll doctor it sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Make a motion that we defer.
All right. Cast your votes on that referral, and that item is deferred. On item 8F, Francis brought up a good point during that presentation. We need to go back and review item 6S. 6S.
I'll make a motion to
Councilman Mars has
the consent docket. I'll just explain what's going on. When I stepped out on PPAB, and now I need to step out on the consent docket, 6S and PPAB are both a contract with the Arts Council, and my position as the current president of the Board of Directors of the Arts Council, I didn't feel it was appropriate that I vote on it here because I'd signed the agreement for the Arts Council. So I need a motion to reconsider the consent docket.
Just 6S.
Just 6S? Okay.
Okay, so it's a motion and a second to reconsider item 6S. Cast your votes. That passes unanimously. And now we need a vote to rescind. Okay, how about a motion to rescind item 6S, and then we'll vote on it. All right, cast your votes. Item 6S is rescinded. Now how about a motion to approve item 6S?
Motion to approve 6S.
All right, cast your votes. And that item passed unanimously.
Mayor,
Yes.
could we just hear for a moment as to, I understand it's just kind of under lock and key, but is there any plan to, in the next 12 months, to try to restore the facility? Or are we just going to stand by and hope that it will find a new tenant? Could we get a little update on that?
Sure. On Stage Center, first of all, it was damaged by flooding in June. It has not been opened since that. The facility is owned by the Arts Council on land that's owned by, I believe, the Kilpatrick Family Fund. We have a contract to operate it. We provide the operation costs at a rate below market rate. So we are doing, it's a cost to us to operate that facility. The modifications today formalize taking out of the annual operation, since it's no longer an operation, and it puts us into a monitoring role where we go in and check and make sure that pipes aren't being frozen and that people aren't breaking in and that type of thing. And so we're in kind of a monitoring role at this point in time. There's movement afoot by some folks to get multiple people to participate in a study, not only of the viability of that facility, but what the community needs are for facilities of that type. And so to take a look at and it's that they're trying to have folks contribute and do a report to do those two things. And I anticipate you may be seeing something in the near future on that. I would guess that the City of Oklahoma City would be asked to participate a share of that study.
Any unusual concerns that you might anticipate other than just the security of the facility and the freezing and cold weather?
Those are the major issues that are out there at this point in time. It's a difficult structure. It's obviously it's been costly to operate and has had some problems. It's also a very unique structure. So it's going to be interesting as we go forward to see what the alternatives will be.
It's not on the historical preservation list, is it? Building,
I don't believe it is.
And unique is not always good.
It's still an important building. Any other comments or questions on, I guess this is the rescinding of item 6S. All right. Well, we're back to the council agenda then, and on item 8F, and I understand we do not need executive session today.
Yeah, there's nothing to add.
Okay. How about a motion and a second on 8F? All right, cast your votes. Item 8F passes unanimously. Item 8G is claims recommended for denial. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under any item listed under 8G? All right, sounds like we're good to go. How about a motion? Cast your votes. Those items are denied. Item 9 is claims recommended for approval. We have one item. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under this item, under item 9, claims recommended for approval? All right, cast your votes on item 9, and it passes unanimously. Item 10 is items from council. Pat, do you have anything for us today? All right. Skip? All right. Pete?
It's Thanksgiving, and I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has an opportunity to meet with their families and have an enjoyable, good Thanksgiving.
Larry?
A couple of things, Your Honor. I'd like to also wish people a happy Thanksgiving, and we're very thankful in Ward 3 for some developments that have taken place in the last week. The Windsor Area Business Group had 2 meetings last week at the Windsor Hills Lanes, Bowling Lanes. Pat White and Jeff Grove from Coppermark Bank, and along with the Juan Group, were very instrumental, along with some other merchants, in getting a good turnout of merchants to come, and hopefully this will result in a very active and forward-thinking group of merchants forming a merchants group on Northwest 23rd from I-44 out to the Bethany line. We had a number of excellent neighborhood meetings last week with Windsor Oaks, Windsor Forest, Meridian Hills, and also River Park holding excellent neighborhood meetings. And the city should be thankful for neighborhoods that get together and do organize and try to move their neighborhoods forward. And then I'd like to pass along to the council and to the mayor a comment that Dr. McDaniel wanted me to make as a result of the MAPS 3 Oversight Committee meeting last week. Mayor, he was very, very impressed with the quality of the people that have been recommended by you and put on the oversight committees and recommended by the council. And he wanted me to share with the council his appreciation for the quality of people that are serving now on the various subcommittees. The subcommittees have all been set up now. They will all be meeting. Progress is being made on MAPS 3. And I don't know whether, Jim, would be possible, but sometime in the next couple of weeks, I think the council might benefit from having Eric come in and just give a brief 40,000-foot overview of the progress that is being made on the selection of the different consultants, what the subcommittees are often going in their direction, because MAPS 3 is moving forward and is making good progress. Thank you, Your Honor.
We'd be happy to do that, Mr. McAfee. And just as a follow-up note, I think we're somewhere between 75 and 80 committee members that have been selected so far to be serving. So it's there's a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life that are being involved in the MAPS 3. This is probably, as far as public involvement, one of the more significant public involvement efforts we've gone out with that number of people actually having formalized input into the process.
Sam? All right, Gary? Brian, you were out when we went by.
A couple of things. Jim, I'd like a weekly update on the Southwestern construction, if you wouldn't mind.
We'd be happy to do that.
And then also, Sunday, Pete, did you already talk about the First Step Women's? Okay. Sunday we had the opportunity to go out and visit the First Step Women's facility for the ribbon cutting of the new facility. And, you know, it's such an eye-opener, just like what they're talking about the City Rescue Mission. It's such an eye-opener. We get so caught up in our lives and forget sometimes of the people who have the struggles. And so going out there and seeing what they're doing was just an incredibly humbling experience, but also just a proud experience to see how they take women, in this specific case, but I guess the men as well, who have really reached maybe the lowest point in their life, and give them the opportunity to basically have a redo. And so my wife and I went out there, Councilman White was out there, saw former Councilwoman and Samak out there, and it's just such a humbling experience to see people who are struggling through those issues, but yet are not giving up. And so along with that, one of the things that was mentioned was the public inebriated alternative facility that is being moved. And I just wondered where that was in the process of getting that.
It was actually on the docket this morning. We to put out plans and plans and specs for the reconstruction.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Any other items from council? City manager reports, claims and payroll. Citizens to be heard. All right, ready to adjourn? We're adjourned.